Tom, walk me through how Daniel Jones wound up in purple.
There were a bunch of teams that reached out to Daniel Jones once it became public that he was going to be waived by the Giants. There were teams actively recruiting him. There were a variety of people from organizations talking directly to Daniel Jones and trying to sell him. But the fit in Minnesota always made a lot of sense for a variety of reasons. For one thing, the Vikings saw the best version of Daniel Jones that we've ever seen. His one playoff win with the Giants was in Minnesota when they upset the Vikings 2 years ago. So they know that it's in there. From the Vikings' perspective, too, you look at their backup quarterback situation right now. They've got Nick Mullins. He can play in a pinch. He knows the offense, but the upside is probably limited if something were to happen to Sam Darnold as you're trying to make a playoff push here. You also only have one quarterback who's even under contract for 2025. So effectively, you get a dirt cheap look at a former top 10 pick at quarterback who you think does have some talent, much in the same way that, Sam Darnold was kicked around and was a punchline for a long time. You're hoping maybe you can get something similar out of Daniel Jones. From Jones's perspective, he's going to start out on the practice squad, which means that, hey, somebody on another team tears their ACL this weekend, a team that's in the playoff chase, he could go there if he wanted to and start. He can sign, and the Vikings couldn't stop him. But also, probably more importantly, this is about the development for Daniel Jones. He can go to a team that has a really good reputation for developing quarterbacks with, not just Kevin O'Connell, but Wes Phillips and Josh McCown and the rest of the gang that they've got in the building there. He gets to learn an offense, Rich, that a lot of teams in the NFL run. When you talk about the, for lack of a better term, the Shanahan-McVay style of offense, the outside zone, the play actions and all that, Daniel Jones hasn't really been in that type of an offense here. So in the same way that Sam Darnold going for a year with Kyle Shanahan last year in San Francisco, this is kind of a microwaved version of that, where Daniel Jones, when we come out on the other side of this, and let's say he stays with the Vikings for the rest of this season, doesn't actually see game action, which we'll see kind of how things transpire here, but at least then it's, hey, I've been trained by one of the best guys in this offense. I'm going to be ahead of the game. What Daniel Jones is hoping to get is an opportunity to compete somewhere to start in 2025. Maybe there's a scenario where that ends up being in Minnesota, because they only have J.J. McCarthy under contract for next season. McCarthy's missing his entire rookie season because of the meniscus surgery. Nothing is off in terms of his timetable. He did have that recent follow-up procedure just to make sure that everything was in good shape with the knee, but full expectations he's ready for camp. I've said it before, Rich, I think on this show, that I don't think realistically, when you're talking about a rookie missing his entire first season, which there's not a lot of precedent for, I don't think you go in and just say JJ is number one on the depth chart and there's nobody else in the building next year. Whether it's Sam Darnold, who is making himself more and more money every week, or it's Daniel Jones, or it's somebody else, they got to have somebody there. So again, it's a free, cheap look. If eventually Daniel Jones ends up on the 53-man roster, the Vikings also could collect a compensatory pick for him. There's a lot of reasons this made sense for all parties, and Daniel Jones should be in Minnesota soon.
Win, 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 win. There are a lot of checking of boxes right there. Who else was in on it to try and tell Daniel Jones, you get the win-win coming to us too?
There were a lot of teams that showed some level of interest. I think some of them have been reported in terms of Baltimore and San Francisco. Miami would have made some sense as well. I know somebody said Buffalo. I never got the sense that was going to happen based upon their quarterback room. But, I mean, think about it. How often does this happen that a former high pick with that much starting experience becomes available and he's getting paid $11.8 million by the Giants? So you owe him nothing. It's just a completely cheap look at a backup quarterback. So there were a bunch of different situations that potentially would have made sense, but it really came down to just a couple of teams. Minnesota was always, I think, the favorite going through the process. They also recruited him hard. We'll see how long it lasts. Again, he could leave next week if he wants to, but the mentality going into this, from my understanding, is he's going to be there for the next couple of months. He's going to learn. They're going to get a look at him. Maybe there's a partnership that goes into 2025, but if not, then no harm, no foul. It really didn't cost anybody anything.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.